Meeting is now streaming live.
That's awesome. This is always good. The next thing that would be good is if we're in the right group, and I think we are. So welcome, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you've joined us here this evening, or whenever you watch it, if you're watching the replay, morning, afternoon, this is the right place, it's the right time. If you want to just grab a beverage and settle in, and we are going to learn all the things from Cam and Diana and Chloe tonight about their experiences with various kinds of concerns, including heartburn, GERD, and acid reflux. So my name is Sherry Grant, and I've been with Plexus for almost 4 years now. I'm the grandma to 11 awesome grandchildren. So if you've got a friend that you think you'd like to invite to this group, make them welcome, invite them in, and we'd be happy to have them join us as well. What you hear here this evening is not intended to diagnose or cure or treat or prevent any disease. It's strictly for informational purposes. So our goal is to help you learn about Plexus and how it might benefit you or your friends. We're going to share why we love these products and give you a glimpse into what we've seen, what we experienced, and what we have felt. Plexus products focus on getting to the root of the problem. So we're looking at addressing the main pillars of health. So blood sugar balance, inflammation, and the microbiome. And if you're not familiar with that big microbiome word, that's all about gut health on the inside and the health of our largest organ, the skin, on the outside, because we have a microbiome there too. So we're going to start tonight with some incredible stories, and I'm going to invite Cam Penaff to start with his story. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Cam, and what you were struggling with and what you found.
Well, thanks for the invitation, Sherry. It's kind of interesting to tell my heartburn story. I've told it to a few folks, but not in a public message like this. And to be very clear, I'm not the Plexus person. I'm just the drag along. My wife does the Plexus thing. We run a safety consulting company, and that keeps me fairly busy, busier than I want to be, quite frankly. But I've had a number of fairly high stress jobs over, the last 30 years or so, being a project manager, construction manager for a fairly large commercial industrial construction company. I was a managing partner there. And I've had some pretty high stress over the years. And about 25 years ago, I started experiencing heartburn. And it was pretty consistently once or twice a day and pretty much every night, 2, 3, 4 times a night. And after a number of gastrointestinal scopes, and that's a real treat, as anyone that's been through that process knows, several prescriptions taken up to 3 times the recommended strength under doctor's supervision that basically did absolutely nothing for the heartburn. After finding out that chronic heartburn is a precursor to stomach cancer because of the scarring and the inflammation and all of that stuff, too much Gaviscon, sleeping in a recliner. There were some nights, typically 1 or 2 sessions a month, where I typically wouldn't sleep for anywhere from 2 to 3 days because the heartburn would be so bad at night. I couldn't sleep. I'd nod off for half an hour, 40 minutes, wake up again. Being involved in construction and martial arts over the years, I'm pretty familiar with pain, and this is not pain like any pain I've ever experienced. It's no fun at all. This all peaked about 5 years back. And at that time I was going again 2 or 3 days each month without sleep, doing whatever I had to do to just survive, and very unpleasant. We experimented with diets and we tracked all kinds of food intakes. We did all kinds of things. We never could find a dietary link to all of this, although cutting out dairy certainly helped. And even to this day, I sort of watch, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. But I would still at least have daily heartburn. And I would rarely, and I mean rarely, like 2 or 3 nights a year, get a full night's sleep. It amazes me to this day how I functioned, even up until a year ago. And like I said, it was like this for 24, 25 years. That was normal for me. That was just life. Now, as some folks may know, my lovely wife Diana beside me here was experiencing some of her own issues, menopause and the night sweats and all of that wonderful stuff that you good ladies go through. And we had this niece, Nikki, that was talking about this plexus stuff and talking about how it had done so many marvelous things for her. And she can tell her story someday, and she has already. So Diana's somewhat hopeful, kind of skeptical. What the heck? Let's give this a try. Much like you would maybe go on a prescription. Let's see if this thing will work for us. And so she got on this stuff. And after a few months, I couldn't deny the changes that I saw in her. And I'm not a skeptic by nature, but you got to prove something's going to work before you're going to get me doing it. And whether it's whatever it happens to be, health or otherwise. But she'd been yakking at me about this stuff. So I said, okay, let's give it a try. And so I originally started about a year ago. And because of my experience with other medications and things I've been on, I never ever do more than one thing at a time. Getting on 2 or 3 things, in my opinion, is not good medicine, so to speak. So I said, okay, I'm going to try X Factor. And after about 3 months, I saw significant improvement, and I'll give you details in a minute. But it took about 3 months. Better sleep, less heartburn, but I was still having heartburn at least a few times a week. We added Slim and we added BioCleanse. Like I say, about 3 or 4 months in. A couple of months later, we started on ProBio CA. And this is all prompting from her. I really don't know what I take. She just says, take this stuff. And son of a gun, it works. And about 6 months in, I'm maybe having occasional heartburn, maybe 2 to 4 times a month instead of 4 or 6 times a day. When I would get flare-ups, those flare-ups would last for a week. I'd have those 2 or 3 days of no sleep. I'd have, maybe 3 or 4 days beyond that of very little sleep. And it would take me an additional 2 to 3 weeks to get settled down. I might, get back to my good sleep of, only getting up 3 times in the night. And a week later, I'd be in another flare-up. Well, I don't get flare-ups anymore. If I get a flare up, maybe once every 6 or 8 weeks, 2 days, I'm back to normal. I'm sleeping through the night 5, 6, 7 days a week. Usually when I get up, it's just because I have to pee. It's not because I have heartburn. That's an age thing too. And some of us can relate to that. I'm no longer in a diet. As I mentioned, I cut out dairy. I'm eating ice cream, and I love ice cream. I'm eating ice cream. I can have sour cream again. It's working. And like I said, even if I do have a flare up, I just have to watch my diet for a couple of days. I don't change my plexus stuff. I just keep taking the same stuff and I'm good to go. And on a side effect, because of my stomach issues, I can't take painkillers. I can now because I can take Ease. And last weekend I was out working outside and I had a really sore back, actually slipped and fell. I don't know if you can see a big bruise on my arm. But I was really sore and I took Ease for a couple of days. I'm good to go. So here's the thing, folks. It took me years to get as sick as I was, and it didn't go away overnight. This is not a prescription. It's not going to mess with your system. You got to give this stuff some time. You got to give it some time to work. Quite frankly, and my wife won't say this to her people, but I'll say it. If you're looking for a quick fix, go somewhere else, because this isn't it. You are not going to get a quick fix. And if you do, good for you. But it took you years to get how you are. Don't expect that to change overnight. But I'll tell you, once you're fixed, life is good. I sleep unbelievably most of the time. And the biggest downside to that, I didn't know what I was missing by not having a good night's sleep. And now when I don't get a good night's sleep, oh my goodness, I drag my butt. And if that's the only downside to gut health, and all of this biome stuff that you're talking about and all the stuff that Diana's educated me about, sign me up. It's been a miracle for us. And I don't worry about stomach cancer anymore.
Yeah. That is absolutely incredible, Cam. And I really appreciate that you walked us through the time it took and
Yeah.
how it started.
Yeah.
Because you are so right. Not magic beans. It's not fairy water. It's not a quick fix. And like you said, those that are looking for that, this isn't the place to look.
No.
We're about root health. We're about healing for the long term. So that's an amazing, amazing story. I so appreciate you being willing to share with us. And I think this really gives hope to people who are struggling with heartburn. Like, wow, there really is hope as long as you're committed to the process.
Yeah.
So if anyone that's watching has some experience with the products that they'd be willing to share in the comments, we'd love if you would put your story and your comment into the comments so that others can read it. And if you're watching, be sure to engage in the comments. There just could be a special gift for someone who makes sure to comment and is part of supporting other people in this group. So very, very good. I'd like now to invite Chloe, if she'd be willing to introduce herself and say a little bit about her experience with heartburn as well.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I am a daycare provider. I have a home daycare in my home, and I'm now 10 years cancer-free from breast cancer. So that's a big, huge bonus for me. And my beginnings of heartburn has been over 20 years. It was kind of more, you could tell when you had to stress for a test, it would flare up, or certain foods you would try and have, like drinking bottled water was torture, like especially certain brands that I found that really bothered me. And acid reflux, I actually had went for all the extra tests and stuff where they give you the chalky milkshake and the fizzy pill to make you regurgitate all this lovely stuff that makes you just whole. But I never did have the scopes, and I'm very thankful I didn't have to have the scopes. But I found triggers are the part that I had to worry about before, especially stress was one of them. If I didn't get a good night's sleep, I found that my day was I was going to be needing the extra, say an extra pill of that I got prescribed by the doctor. Romaine lettuce, who would have thought romaine lettuce would have been a trigger? And when I was going to school in Regina, when I took my early childhood, I would eat a lot of salads and stuff, but I found whenever I ate romaine lettuce, it wasn't a good sign for in a half an hour time kind of thing. So yeah, so I was kind of happy I figured that one out then. So at least then I didn't have that trigger all the time. Definitely medication was always a faithful thing to take, because if I didn't take it, I was busy with the Tums, and I'm trying to think the last time I would have had Tums here lately. So that was my favorite part about it, I guess. I started taking Plexus about 8 months ago, and I just kind of got into the X Factor kind of in December. I'm starting to see like signs of not having so intense heartburn or acid reflux where you feel like it's always coming up, which I think is a wonderful thing, especially when you don't have to take that extra medication in the afternoon or take a couple extra Tums because you're in pain. So far, those are some of the triggers I've had. Right at the moment, I'm still taking Period because I find that's the only one I can take at the moment. And with Plexus, I definitely have been taking 2 of the X Factor, and that seems to be helping where it's not so intense. So
Awesome.
yeah, short and sweet.
No, that's great. And yeah, so that's that's definitely progress. And from Cam's story, I think that's progress in the right direction. So
Mhm.
that's really, really good. Really good. So Diana, I know you've got a story that's a little bit different, and we would love to hear your story too tonight.
All righty. Well, Cam and I have been married for almost 37 years. We have 2 daughters who are both married, and we have 5 grandchildren, with the 6th one due in the next couple of weeks. I began my journey with Plexus in December of 2018. The reason that I began is I approached 50. I was starting to gain that apple shape that we all talk about. I was bloated all the time, and I was beginning to suffer with night sweats and hot flashes. I was exhausted and I was stressed. I was having a few mood swings, and my joints hurt. I was also struggling with not getting the rest that I needed every night. I had no energy and all kinds of sugar cravings. I don't like to admit this, but I would eat the milk chocolate chips by the handful every afternoon just to get through it. Like Cam said in his, Nikki, my niece, was talking about Plexus on Facebook and was feeling wonderful. And so I thought, okay, well, if this can work for her, maybe it can work for me. And so I started taking the products just after Christmas, and by March, I was starting to feel a lot better. I was feeling refreshed in the morning and waking up extremely rested. I was having fewer hot flashes and night sweats, and my belly was beginning to flatten, which was very encouraging for me. I was waking up on my own without an alarm clock, and I was feeling happy and grateful and blessed. My joints no longer hurt, and my sugar cravings were disappearing. I now crave vegetables, finally. I was feeling so much better that I decided to join as a wholesale ambassador and try to help other people. I have big goals. I am 58 years old, and I feel better than most 30-year-olds. And I am happy to say that I am a much healthier wife, mother, and grandma. Oh, you're muted, Sherry.
And doesn't it feel good to be healthier? Like so good. I know, it's, yeah, better than 10 years ago. And how brilliant is that? I don't really have a heartburn story. That's never been my biggest concern. Even when I was pregnant and I have 4 children, not really a big issue. But occasionally recently, I have had heartburn. And it's kind of interesting. For me, I think it's a bit of a detox symptom. It's like my body's readjusting. It's like, wow, that's interesting. But we do know, and we'll put a post in here about a connection with candida or yeast and heartburn. And so as we get into that process of getting that candida back into its correct balance in the gut, instead of too much of it, that can sometimes create some of those uncomfortable symptoms. And when Cam mentioned X Factor Plus was the first thing he started with, that's my go-to. If I ever am woken up in the night with heartburn, I get up, I come out to the kitchen, I take 1 X Factor Plus with a cup of water, I walk around for like 5 minutes, and within 10 minutes, it's done. I can go back to bed and go to sleep. It's really, really interesting. And whether it's the aloe vera, whether it's the shift with the other nutrients, the absorption, I don't really know. What I do know is it works for me, which I think is brilliant. So I'm just going to look and see if anybody's got questions in the Facebook group. So, do I see any questions? Well, I'm not seeing any questions. So if anybody does have questions, pop them in there right away. I'll take a quick look again. But in the meantime, I guess I'd just like to say thank you so much for sharing your stories. I know that this is going to help people. I know that there's people looking for hope. We're going to put some additional stories. I do have another person who diagnosed with GERD and is finding benefits. She's no longer taking that Gaviston at night. So that's huge. So definitely it makes a difference. So if what we've shared has offered you value, just drop an emoji in the comments. Let us know that. If you've got a question, be sure to put it in the comments too. If you're thinking, what do I do? Like, yes, I'm struggling with this and I want to know what to do. Get a hold of one of us or the person that invited you to come to this group. They can help you find what's right for you. And that way we can get into a three-way chat if you need some of us to assist with providing recommendations. Our goal is your success. So we can find a way to help you move toward a better, healthy situation for you. And then if you want to, like Diana has chosen to share with others, you can invite them to a presentation like this. We can help you with telling people about our experiences, about other people's experiences. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. I'm going to check one more time to see if there's any other questions. And if there are other questions, we'll definitely answer them in the comments following this. So I think that's all then. So thank you so much. And I'm going to just say goodbye and
Yeah.
end